So at the time of recording this, we're currently about 9 days away from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which is going to be taking place April 2nd, which is obviously super exciting. I'm really stoked. I know a lot of you guys are as well. Obviously, you know, if you're new to the channel, stick around for more because Lord willing, August plan, we're going to be covering a lot of the Nintendo Switch 2. We've already been covering a lot, obviously, leading up to the launch and all that, but it's an exciting time, man. It's really exciting, so I can't wait to jump into that, and I hope you guys are going to come along for the ride. Also want to say really quick, I might make a separate video on this, but thank you guys so much for 50,000 subscribers here on the channel. That's insane, so I just want to say that really quick. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump straight into this video because we got rumors basically going around, and again, they are rumors, to take it with a grain of salt, that I guess apparently there's going to be another Nintendo Direct, but like not a Switch 2 Direct. This would be focused on Switch 1. And again, these are very, very speculative rumors. There's not a whole lot of weight going into this, but I wanted to talk about the topic as well because I think it makes sense that we should be getting something at some point, and I'll explain why. Because we got Xenoblade Chronicles X that just came out, and with that now released, there's nothing on Nintendo's schedule for the future. Not any kind of big games. No release dates, anyways, for anything else. And you know, if you've been following kind of the release date schedule, we typically get a fairly decent sized game, usually AAA kind of big first party title or sometimes third party, releasing on the Nintendo Switch at least one per month. We've had that since the Nintendo Switch came out. They've been very good at having a consistent schedule, and I think that's been really, really good for just kind of maintaining momentum and pushing month after month, as opposed to the Wii U, right, where we had kind of like 3 games launching in a month and then like nothing for a few months. So it's been good, but we don't have anything slated beyond this. So the question is, what are we gonna get? We have Pokemon ZA, and we have we have Metroid Prime 4, but these don't have release dates. So we'll talk about that more in a second. Let me throw up a couple things on screen. So Stealth40K over on Twitter tweeted out basically, that he feels like Nintendo made the right call not having any more Switch Directs before the Switch 2 presentation. It does feel like a little bit of a drought of Nintendo news right now, which also is true, and I do apologize. We haven't had a lot going on this channel lately. It is worth noting I obviously have 2 different gaming channels. This is my Nintendo only channel, and so when there's not a lot to cover for Nintendo, I just kind of waited out a little bit. But anyways, and yeah, so there's not a lot going on, he says, and maybe he thinks Nintendo just wants people to be talking about Switch 2 and not Switch 1 right now, which is it's very possible. I mean, it makes sense in my mind. But what's interesting is you can see that Andy Robinson of VGC quote tweeted this with the thinking emoji. Now this doesn't mean anything. People went like blowing this up on Reddit and other kind of places saying like, oh look, there's a new Nintendo Direct coming out soon, just based off of this tweet. This tweet doesn't say anything in and of itself, but it's interesting to say the very least. Now there's another journalist, if you will, that I'm not really super familiar with, I'll be honest. Necrolipe, I believe is how you say his name, a Nintendo indie journalist and editor-in-chief of Univ Nintendo. I'm not super familiar, but anyways, he's got like 32,000 followers on X, on Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And this is what he tweeted out. He says, Nintendo is really an unpredictable and funny company, right? Keep an eye on this week. What if? So I don't know if he's got like some inside information or if he's just kind of trying to, rile people up, maybe, engagement farm of it. I have no idea. Okay. I'm like I said, I'm not super familiar with him, but I did see people kind of sharing this tweet as well. And is there credibility? It seems there's a lot of people that I follow that follows him, like Nintendeal and Spawnwave and Stealth40K and, Go Nintendo Tweet and Andre from Game Explain. So there's a lot of people following him. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know a lot about his history, I'll be honest, but, I thought it was interesting. Now, does this mean that, yeah, we're getting a Nintendo Direct for sure? No, I don't think so at all. I just think it's interesting that a couple different, well-known journalists kind of sort of hinted at maybe something's gonna happen. But again, it's so non-specific too. That said, regardless of whether this was, a potential speculative rumor or not, the question still remains, and I think the topic still remains, the video is still worthy of being made, of saying, are we going to get something? We have to get something, right? Because we have, like I said, the Nintendo, let's say the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, right, happens April 2nd as it's going to, and then Nintendo says, hey, we're releasing this thing, I don't know, what was it, the rumored release date was June, I think, right? So we're releasing this in 2 months, in June, right? Okay, great, now you still have 2 months to go, right? We have, right now we're currently March, so we have April, May, and then I guess, you know, June comes out. So we have at least 2 months to go. What do we get? What do we get in those 2 months? I mean, you know, there's a lot of different things that we don't have still that I'm still hoping we will get, you know. I don't know if we're going to get it like as a release for Switch 2 or what, but like, for example, Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD. It's been rumored forever that they have this kind of like slated for the Switch, but it's never came out. Do they drop that right before Switch 2? And hey, it's, you know, Switch 2 is backwards compatible, so it doesn't really matter that they drop that last minute, right? Maybe there's a patch to kind of, you know, update it to be able to take advantage of, you know, the extra power that the Switch 2 is going to harness. If it is, you know, if it is 4K, you know, there's a lot of patents we've seen of upscaling to 4K, different things like that. So maybe that's a possibility, but I still think that although this is very non-specific, that there is a chance, and there's a good chance that we're going to get something somewhere said at some point. Now, is it going to happen before Switch 2 or after? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I heard people saying this is going to happen this week. I forget where I seen that. I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find exactly where and if it was credible. But, you know, some people are speculating, you know, that there's going to be something this week announced. But would they do that before the Switch 2? I don't know. I think, like, on one hand, you know, you might want to do that before the Switch 2 Direct. On the other hand, you might want to just do it after to kind of, you know, tide people off until the actual release date of Switch 2, but then it's also distracting from the Switch 2 itself. I don't know what Nintendo's going to do. Or maybe they just, you know, don't do a whole lot for the next couple months until Switch 2 releases. Your guess is as good as mine, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think we're going to see another, you know, Switch 1 kind of Direct before the Switch 2 actually releases? Maybe not before the Switch 2 Direct, but before the Switch 2 releases? Or, I don't know, what are your thoughts? And what would you like to see? You know, if you could have, like, whatever, what would you like to see release on the Switch 1 before the Switch 2 releases? And one last question. Do you guys plan to pick up the Switch 2 when it launches? Like, right at launch? Or is that kind of dependent on how much it costs? You know, what kind of games are going to be coming out at, you know, at launch and whatever. Let me know your thoughts. For everything else Nintendo, Lord willing, all goes plan. We're going to be covering it here on the channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. So stay tuned for that. And until the next one, game on. We'll see you guys soon.